Here we go. Okay. Good morning, everyone. We are here at the West County Concilio Latino today, Friday, March the 24th, and welcome. As you know, Concilio is a network for individuals and organizations working with the Latino community in West Contra Costa County, which meets monthly to identify needs, share resource information, and advocate for gaps in services for the Latino community at the local, state, and federal levels, and specifically address the needs of the monolingual Spanish-speaking community. Concilio Latino partners with coalitions of diverse civil and human rights organizations to advocate and participate in activities, events, and movements toward social justice for all underserved and underrepresented and targeted communities. We also recognize we're presently on the lands of the Chochenyo, Muecma, Carcan, Ohlone peoples, and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy. All right, and then the meetings are recorded and will be posted in various networks. So today our guest is Francisco Ortiz, and we've asked him to come and give us an update about the community schools movement. Had a big win recently, so he will introduce himself and all of his titles, and then we'll get started. Thank you, Francisco, for being here.
Thank you very much, Consuelo. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Madeline, the rest of the Concilio Latino family for welcoming you to the space and giving you an update on the current community schools program in West Contra Costa. My name is Francisco Ortiz. I am a district graduate. I've been a teacher at Ford Elementary for the past 10 years. I also serve as vice president and community schools organizer for United Teachers of Richmond. And after 12 months of negotiations, United Teachers of Richmond reached a tentative agreement with the West Contra Costa School Board on the 2022-2025 successor contract on February 10th. And it was ratified the next week by our membership and also ratified and approved by the school board on March 1st. And one of the big wins in this contract campaign was our focus on uplifting community voice through shared decision making. And one of those features is the full inclusion of the community schools article into the collective bargaining agreement. And so the article will remain in effect until June 2027 or until state funding expires, whichever occurs later. Our goal and our mutual goal with the West Contra Costa School District is to have a sustainability plan in place so that we can continue to provide services through the community schools model beyond the grant expiration of the California Community Schools Partnership Program. And I just want to share a couple of highlights from the article. It starts with, a definition which really centers on school transformation. Also having principles of labor and management collaboration that will be integral throughout this work. Also updating the West Contra Costa School Board resolution, which was passed in 2012 on community schools, so that it's now reflective of the current state framework and our direction moving forward. There's a vision statement, a belief statement, and an articulated process as to how a school could become a community school in our district. Also highlights the district-wide steering committee known as the Support Collaborative, which is co-chaired by a district representative, a UTR chair. We also have included a parent co-chair who is not a district parent. It's not employed by the district or contracted by the district. So, a family member and also a community partner. Currently, we have the City of San Pablo, who has been a great partner and leader within the community schools work, funding over $1 million each year for the community schools in West Contra Costa. But that could also be another community partners, like a youth serving organization or a service provider, as well as many of our schools work with lead agencies who are providing some of those services as well. So there's flexibility and more inclusion for more voices at the table at the district-wide steering committee. There's also an articulated formation of the site-based collaborative governance teams, including of families, of students, of certificated and classified staff, along with the community school director, which is one of the key facets of making a community school effective, and also including stipend for families and students who are sharing their knowledge or sharing their expertise on these site governance teams. And then additionally, it also articulates, how we're going to be aligning our approach to the 4 pillars of the community school framework, which is integrated student supports, family and community engagement, collaborative leadership and practices, and expanded learning opportunities and time. Also articulates how the community school director will be a part of the leadership team, meeting with the administrator at the site at least once a week, and being an integral part of the culture and climate team, the care team, and really aligning the different, or aligning the focuses of each of those committees into the community school strategy. And then additionally, there's also an opportunity for teachers or classified staff. We know our SCOWs are really important. We know some teachers who are rooted in the community would be great community school directors. So there's pathways and flexibility for sites to make those decisions if they have a really awesome teacher or a really awesome classified person who would shine in that role as a community school director. There's also flexibility for those folks to move and apply into those positions, or a site can continue their partnership with one of the service providers or the lead agencies that we currently have working in our district right now. So that's just a general overview. I can share a short, or it's about a 4-page document, 6-page document, excuse me, that I can share with you, Concilio, if you would like to share with the rest of the Concilio Latino as well, so folks can have a little bit more time to read it as well. And then currently, as you know, through the grants through the state, 22 schools were funded in the first round of implementation grant funding. Round 2 opened up about a month and a half ago, and the deadline to apply was originally March 21st, but it has been extended, or the CDE provided the flexibility for districts to apply for an extension, given that there was power outages, the rains and storms that had impacted several parts of the state, and so West Contra Costa did apply for an extension until the 31st of March, which we were working on 4 more schools. So Highland Elementary, Murphy Elementary, Betty Reed Soskin, and De Anza High School. Now, Betty Reed Soskin and De Anza High School are a part of the community schools program. They didn't receive funding during the first round because the CDE was prioritizing sites that had 80% or more students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. Despite that, the grant calls for 50% or above, they were prioritizing those sites. And so now, with this round of funding, we've received a little bit of insider knowledge, maybe perhaps, that they're going to be lowering the 80% prioritization depending on demand. So if there's more demand from schools who meet the criteria but are not at the 50% or at the 80% prioritization, they'll also have an opportunity to get funding this time around. Now, Highland is our only school that is 80% or above unduplicated student counts. That didn't apply in the first round of funding, and with them being on this round of application for West Contra Costa, we hope that it'll help the other schools who are just below the 80% threshold achieve that funding. And so those the elementary schools that I mentioned, Highlands, Murphy, are also feeding into Betty Reed, Hoskin, and De Anza High School. So we're hoping that with this round of funding, we'd be able to provide the families and students in those schools with a continuity of service up until into the same program for the community school funding. And so that's an update on the round 2 of funding as well. On a district steering committee wide level, the co-chairs, we've met with Supervisor Joya, and we're looking to also potentially include our superintendent, our county superintendent, Lynn Mackey, into the conversation as well with the other mayors and the West County Mayors Forum, because West Contra Costa serves 5 municipalities, and we have community schools in all 5 of those cities. But we want to make sure that we have active city engagement with those local leaders so that we can continue to integrate services as well. The city of Richmond, where the majority of our community schools are located, is very interested. They had an update at the city council meeting last month, and they were they had some really positive reflections and questions about how they could get involved with community schools. And so I know that Mayor Martinez is very supportive. I've been in contact with Council Member Claudia Jimenez as well, and how we can continue to partner with the city of Richmond to support the community schools movement in that district. Additionally, the State Transformative Assistance Center, which is comprised of the UCLA Center for Community Schools, the National Education Association, and the Alameda County of Education, are providing statewide technical assistance to all of the districts who have been provided with a planning or an implementation grant. West Contra Costa received an implementation grant, which is the 5th largest in the state. And we were also selected out of, we were one of 3 deep dive sites that the statewide Transformative Assistance Center has selected to support and learn more from, because our grant application really stood out. And what they shared that they wanted to learn more from was the way in which we applied for the grant with full-on UTR support and working with the district. And so I think that labor management collaboration is something that we should really be celebrating, and not only in this win, but hopefully moving forward, because we've heard of other districts who applied and community wasn't involved, teachers weren't involved, the students weren't involved, and so now we want to find different practices to highlight what different ways in which these collaborations can work. Currently, there is a needs and asset assessment that is happening throughout the community schools. There's been some listening sessions that are occurring and ongoing. We have some the California Healthy Kids Survey, which is gathering data on school experiences for students. They also had some listening sessions with the Multilingual District Advisory Council, the DLCAPS, the District Local Control Accountability Plan district group. There's currently like a thought exchange and some feedback that we've heard about community members, like figure out what to do with what's been collected. There seems to be like this sentiment that we're collecting data, or the district collecting data, but our community doesn't really know what they do with it. They want to see it being reflected in how schools operate. We also have an engagement subcommittee as part of the district's support collaborative, the steering committee, we want to find out how we can continue to include the voices that are most marginalized or the voices that we don't hear. And additionally, there's going to be a youth and parent symposium on the graduate profile on April 29th. And this will be from 9:30 to 1 p.m. And during this summit, there's the goal is to define what the graduate profile would look like in implementation, and what are the key pillars of the graduate profile, and what the district will need to achieve that pillar. And so the sessions are going to be separated into a youth sessions and then another session for families as well. And so I know I've kind of shared a lot. I'd be happy to, also share that I'm developing lots of resources in Spanish, because that's a big gap that we've identified in terms of how to include our families who are not, native English speakers into not only the site-based governance teams, but to make sure that their voices are not only just heard but centered in our decision-making processes, and elevating those voices as co-leaders and co-constructors in our community schools, so that this is something that is done with community as opposed to onto a community without really taking them into without really valuing their voice. So we really want to be as intentional as possible to include those voices. I'm creating a presentation for families to push in insights and to share with our community school directors and supporting teachers with how they could also get involved. There's going to be a community schools conference at the end of the school year, where a lot of the schools who just received a community school director, for the first time this year, could send a team of, the directors, some classified staff, the principal, and a couple of teachers as well, so that when they come back, there's a lot more knowledge and a focus as to how that school community can move forward with implementing community schools at their site. So I think I can, that's a lot to digest. So if you have any questions, or if there's anything else that you'd like me to elaborate more on, I'd be happy to.
Francisco, it's amazing what you're doing. And I personally am really struck by the collaboration, the labor management collaboration. I think that is so important. But I want to ask a question. This is an issue that Consuelo and I have been talking about recently, and I'm not sure how or if it fits into community schools, but it certainly fits into the climate of the schools and the academic profiles of our schools. And that is the struggle to keep teachers, and the struggle also to successfully recruit successful substitutes. Right now, maybe that's more your NEA hat or your UTR hat than your community schools hat. But what do you know about what's going on to support the district in having a good, strong group of subs and supporting the subs that we have?
Well, I think one of the steps, a positive step that we were able to secure with, keeping the teachers that we currently have and hopefully recruiting teachers as well in this contract was a 14.5% raise over 2 years. And so that's the biggest raise or salary increase that UTR has had, I believe in its history since I've been in here, because I think our last raise was about 14% over 3 years.
Right.
And so 14.5%, no other district was offering a 3% deal. We've also eliminated the service credits. Districts all around us are also, removing service credits. So it speaks to the drastic shortage in educators, because districts are poaching teachers as much as they can, right? And so it's really hard to staff classrooms that don't have a permanent credential teacher with, substitutes who can go to neighboring districts with higher pay. right? And so our sub pay has increased, but it's, Albany, I believe it's about 200 or 300, I think, in other places where, a substitute can drive a few miles and earn more than they might be able to earn here in West Contra Costa.
Yeah. So is NEA looking at it? Just, do you know, or CTA?
Any CTA is, I know that that's something that's in committee right now in ways that we could maybe even support student CTA into increasing that capacity, but there's not, our teacher programs are very much under enrolled, and so there's not a lot of people who are getting into the teaching profession. And so how do we incentivize that more? How do we increase more of like, not just the intrinsic, but the social value of the importance of teachers, and how they maintain, not only our schools running, but communities really, together.
And having academies, right? The education academies. That had been something that was growing, and I'm not necessarily seeing that as in growing right now. Because I think you're right. I think that young people are looking at the career as in a really negative way. I should become a programmer instead. I should become, something else.
Yeah, anyway. There is an academy, I believe, structure, but in our district, we don't have that in place.
See, we don't have it at Richmond High, as somebody once told us we were going to have. No, it's not there.
Not to my knowledge, unless I have to go back and check with Mr. De Leon, but not to my knowledge. I believe it's law, it's STEM, and
medicine,
thinking,
health.
Yeah. Well, and I think this collaboration method is going to model and process, is going to help all of that. For instance, I love that the cities, the connection with the cities, something I've learned from the League of Women Voters, or trying to connect with students in high school, for instance. And they said, you need to identify an anchor at the school. And the anchor would be somebody that's going to be there over time. And we know this. And you have an anchor, with in your association. And so then people can come and go, but it's already institutionalized that these programs will come. Sustainability has always been an issue. We've transformed schools before, but then as soon as those people leave, it falls apart. And we need to anchor them better. That's what we're not accomplishing. So I'm hoping that this shared kind of governance and shared way, collaborative way of working has an effect all around. It kind of seeps into everything. And I do have other some other questions that I was, she's gone. So, there she is. Okay. And I forgot that we didn't introduce ourselves, Madeline. So let me introduce myself, and then Madeline, you can introduce yourself, and then Darlene, you can introduce yourself. Okay. So I'm Consuelo Lara, and I co-facilitate the Concilio Latino, and I'm on presently on the Contra Costa County Board of Education. And Madeline.
I'm Madeline Cronenberg, and I'm here representing the League of Women Voters of West Contra Costa County. And I'm also one of the teachers on Between Two Teachers.
Okay, Darlene.
Hi, everyone. I haven't been attending in quite a while, but, I've been a semi-regular visitor here trying to support the Concilio Latino's efforts. When I originally attended this regular meeting, it was about 23rd Street economic development. It was more about economic development. Then I was a partnership specialist with the U.S. Census. Then I was also working with the Small Business Administration as working during COVID. Today, my new hat, because I'm pretty much somewhat retired, although now I'm busier than I was before I retired, is I'm currently the Richmond Rotary president. But the other thing I am is the founder of the East Bay Pickleball Association. And I think the reason that this is super important is that the East Bay Pickleball Association got in a contract through the Ed Fund with WCCUSD for an after-school program for pickleball in 4 of our most schools that need it the most, which is Stige Elementary, Grant, Bayview, and Terra Hills. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about, if you wanted, about what's happening with pickleball, because it actually impacts both seniors and young kids. It's multi-generational. It's quite a cool, enormous possibility for Richmond that's already happening. So thought I'd join you guys today as I saw, oh my gosh, I haven't visited Consuelo and Madeline and the Concilio Latino in a while. So I thought I'd be here with you guys today. And I thought, Francisco, your topic, any way that pickleball can get involved with the teachers as a fun activity, all about team building, community building, anything we can do to advance this, because I think pickleball is an enormous thing, interesting equity building type activity for community in Richmond and San Pablo and WCCUSD. That's all.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, this pickleball is really just moving along. It's really, everybody really loves it. I'm thinking fundraiser maybe. And
Yes,
tournaments.
I'll hear for you. You know what I love is right now when I was showing the little kids introducing them to pickleball, sometimes when I'm having them count back and forth how many times they can hit the ball over the net, because it's wonderful for developing hand-eye coordination. And I have even a little bit, some of the children count in Spanish. So that it gives, they're counting, they're learning how to count, but they're also learning to count. And I see that some of them have learned Spanish, not just the Latino children, but some of the other kids. So there's so much possibilities with pickleball, because it's been wonderful to hear the after school coordinators say that the kids, this rain has been kind of a deterrent because you can only do pickleball outside, but the kids want it, they like it. That's huge. Is that I'm not being biased. I really genuinely think the kids really like pickleball, and so do the adults for that matter. Anyway, I can share the schedule of what's happening with open play over at Booker T. Anderson, at Castro Park, any place that you guys want to go to an intro clinic, any type of team building that you guys want to do with pickleball. The sky's the limit. I'm all open to ideas of how we can share this really wonderful activity with all of you.
You can put your contact information into the chat.
Okay, I will do that.
I'll repost it and make sure people have that information for the contact. Thank you. That is just so great. I'm really thrilled about that. I do have, let me see, Francisco, there's always this discussion or controversy about contracts. There's too many contracts, and how many contracts, and who are the contracts. So these service providers will be contracted organizations, right? So, but they will be funded by the Community and Schools grant, right? That's what I was wondered about.
Yeah, so because we already had a community schools program prior, to the grant that the state, allocated $4.1 billion to, those service providers were originally funded, through LCAP funds. And so the city of San Pablo also allocates money towards the community schools initiative here in West Contra Costa. But one of the provisions in the request for applications was that existing programs would not get funded, or the new funding was to supplant existing programs, right? So if our district was already allocating certain amount of money towards the community schools effort, then the grant funding would be used to supplant or to augment those funds that are already included for community schools. It's not to replace those funds.
So it's to supplement, not supplant, right?
It's to supplement, not supplant. Correct.
Okay.
And so that's a part of the grant deliverables, right? And so they have to provide the district has to provide a report each year, to the CDE how money's being allocated. But one of the things that was also included in WCC's grant application was to provide universal support, because what we had as a community schools program before, because we have so many different service providers, was folks may be operating in different focus areas or in different capacities. And so we want to make sure that we articulate those as much as possible, so that lead agencies are talking to one another, and so that there's a certain level setting that community schools in our district would have to provide, as opposed to maybe grant offering a different model through Seneca or through BACR. I mean, they will have different models, right? But we want to make sure that it's aligned to the framework and that it's providing the same services or the needed services for each type of the school community. Also within it as well, the hope is that with the flexibility to have classified or a teacher certificated folks in the community school director's roles, and having more of a cohesive vision and structure how to make that happen, that would help with sustainability, so that we can learn from our service providers as well. And if for whatever reason partnerships or grant funding might not always be there, how do we continue the work that we've already established moving on into the future?
Yeah. Capacity building and making sure it's sustained. That's true. It occurs to me as we move towards this model of collaboration and shared governance, there may need to be some training for all of us, because people have asked me, well, exactly what does that look like? Because some people I think feel very threatened by it, and they don't know, like, what do you mean by that? And you're going to tell me what to do, how to do my job, or just what the relationships are, what the process is for collaboration, for shared decision making. So I don't know if that's part of the program, but I see a big need for that for sure.
Yeah, definitely. There's opportunities. It's within the grant, the expenditures that are allowed. Shared governance, as you said, is sometimes kind of in bureaucratic and hierarchical organizations like school districts are, it could be threatening, right? But how do we leverage the best, the folks who are most impacted by school level decisions, and our families and our students and our educators, right? And so including them within the shared leadership structure will require, type of professional development. We've included that in our contract as well to support, different types of professional development aligned to the community school strategy, and shared leadership and governance is one of those as well. So we're hoping to engage in those types of discussions and in those trainings with not only our site level administrators, but our district-wide administrators as well.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's really needed. And then one last thing I wanted to say was about the Healthy Kids Survey and about data. The Healthy Kids Survey has been around for a long time. And it's got some pretty cool stuff in there. I remember every time I see it, I go, wow, I didn't know all this, and what I like is you can, because it's been around, you can look at stuff over time, how have people felt about the school, over time, how teachers have felt, how parents. And I just wish there was some way that I'm sure it's a public document, but some way that it could be more, shared more openly, and released kind of as a publication and a summary of some kind to let us know what we're looking at. But I think that's something that's kind of underused, and I hope we can see more of that data for sure.
Yeah, I think that's also some of the feedback that we've received, that the district has received in terms of how the information sharing and having a more robust system of not only sharing like the community school strategy, but like how do we place the needs and family, or the needs and assets that have been highlighted in these types of surveys and these listening sessions into practice, right? Otherwise, we're just listening, but not really implementing. And so in a sense, that might be replicating, harms that we don't want to replicate onto our communities.
Yeah, for sure.
I think the other thing is from the standpoint of the public, right? So you have your city partners, and it's very different degrees in different cities. I hear that. But there's also different amounts of information. And I think I am a big, gigantic fan of some sort of dashboard, some sort of easily accessible place that you can go to for information on everything, pretty much, because you can go there fast. People are used to fast information. And you could have that on the community schools if you did sort of a page on each school to define where we are, where we're going, and how what the community schools strategy is, which strategy is being used at this school, and what metrics we're using to prove success. Is that considered, or what?
That's an excellent point. As I was, reviewing or going through all the, all of our schools have a web page from the district web page, right?
Right.
And so I think there was about maybe 2 schools that I was able to identify that, specifically called out like that they're a community school and they're and the different strategies, right? And so I think that's a huge need, not only in communicating to our families, but also just for the general public, like, wow, this is what Steve is doing. This is what Montalban is doing, right? And so this is the Internationals Academy. This is the James Morehouse project at El Cerrito High School.
Right.
Like all of these different, and James Morehouse does have some really cool like videos and like part of it, but like sharing that as a spotlight, maybe on our social media, on the superintendent's message. This is the community school that we're going to be highlighting this week. So I think you're right. That's the big need to not only highlight what's really happening in our schools and how we're intending to really uplift this model.
It's both things, Francisco. I think that, honestly, and I will do what I can to make the school board know that it would make a lot of sense to highlight to do a community schools report at every board meeting. And all you do, you would lift up a school, and you'd have the director, whoever it's going to be, however you want to do it, you'd lift up a school, right, and put it out there. So that would be the first thing. And the second one is just to have a web page where you click on each one of them and see what each community school is doing. And it's not a difficult thing to do. We have the technology now, for goodness sakes, and you could do it with videos from everybody, and every community school director could do a video for 2 minutes and just talk about it. There are many, many, many ways to do it, but otherwise it's going to get lost. It's going to get not to be really lifted up as part of who we are, and it is such a huge thing that we got it.
Yeah, that would to document the progress, to document where we are now, the effects it's having. I just see this as being a great model. People are going to come and say, oh, here's some best practices from West Contra Costa Unified School District. And you're a big part of that, Francisco, making that happen and pushing it.
And we need to show it to these other mayors, the recalcitrant cities who think, oh, we don't need that. Well, why don't you take a look and see what it's doing over here, right? And they don't have a way to do that now, right? There's nothing easy for them to be able to do. So
yeah, be on the lookout. The California Teachers Association, we've been in contact with them to do a feature at Richmond High, and so they're going to be coming. They already scoped out, not scoped out, I guess, what would you call it? They did a small visit, to these visuals, and so I think they're planning on doing the feature on the weekend of April 14th, 15th. So to have a little bit more, of a statewide focus on Richmond High School. Joyce Sinot, who's the community schools lead for Bay Area Community Resources, has been highlighting the community school directors and internal communications that the district has also shared. We've been sharing it on our newsletter, but highlighting a specific community school with a short video every week or at every board meeting, that'd be really cool. That'd be not only uplifting the model, uplifting the school, but really showing our entire community what this transformational model can really accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, UTR has the ability to do a 10-minute, a 5 or 10 minute, I think. Historically, this was the case, and I think it still is, a 5 or 10 minute presentation at every board meeting. UTR could just give that to community schools.
Yeah, I think they used to do standing reports, but they have that hasn't been the the
Yeah, I know.
practice
So we have to
since
go back and-
2020, I think.
Yeah, I
So
know,
it's-
I know.
Yeah,
I know. So that's a conversation with leadership, right?
Mhm.
But that certainly could be. And
that certainly could be.
certainly, and especially if we focused around this, because the other part is this is money that this is partnership money. This isn't just, this is for something we won from California, and it's something to be so proud of. So anyway, we have a new visitor here.
Yes, we do. And Francisco, in closing out, we just want to let you know that we're here to support you in any way that we can. And just let us know what we can do, and we will, we'll be there. So thank you very much for all this information. It's great. And
Much appreciated. Thank you for the opportunity to share with Concilio and share with you all. And I see Sonia is on, so big shout out to Supervisor Joya as well. We've been in partnership with him and moving this forward. So
yeah.
thank you.
Hi, Sonia, you want to introduce yourself, and then if you have some announcements or questions.
Yes, apologies. And can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh, great. I've been having trouble lately with my Zoom sound, so I'm relieved. My name is Sonia Bustamante. I'm Chief of Staff for Supervisor Joya, District 1, representing West County. And I apologize for being so late. I was on our West County Transportation Commission meeting earlier this morning, and they were talking about some really important opportunities for funding and bettering our transportation infrastructure and coordination across the Bay Area among transit agencies. And so there were some really robust, good conversations happening, including how to leverage some local funding for state and federal funding for some local projects that all of our cities and our county areas need. And one of the big ones coming up is the Richmond Parkway. That's a big project. I know for North Richmond, that's been something really, really important, and the city of Richmond to, one, I think, mitigate the diesel truck traffic there. Supervisor Joya has been championing a policy, and it's been put in place to put in a land use condition for major distribution centers who tend to want to come into that area of our West County area that's industrial, has a lot of real estate, and companies like FedEx, Amazon have really been attracted to that area because of access through Richmond Parkway, because access to the freeway, and more affordable real estate compared to Oakland and San Francisco, for example. And so the land use condition that is so important for our communities is the requirement that they start to go to zero emission fleets. And our land use condition moves faster than the states. And so that's going to be really, really important in terms of planning how we grow in this area. There's also been an issue with access to the Bay from North Richmond being impeded by Richmond Parkway and the structure of that. And so how do we create opportunities for folks to have access to the Bay like there used to be? How do we create more opportunities for affordable housing? How do we make sure that as we grow industrially and in commerce and encourage our economy to grow, that it's smart, that it's clean air, that it's promoting good policies for healthy growth for our communities? So that's all happening right now, and we're just really excited about all of that. The other update is that, and I've spoken about this before, the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice that was just established and approved by the supervisors, the hiring process for the co-directors positions is being worked on right now. So the equity committee that was newly formed with Supervisor Joya and Supervisor Glover have now started their work. And the core committee, the community planning committee that basically designed this process, has now joined with our Human Resources Department to give input and design this hiring process to ensure that there is community input, that there is a good outreach plan, that there's going to be, the ideal candidates that really can do the work that's being asked of them by taking over this office. It's a big ask. It's, looking for people who have really been skilled and steeped in this work for a long time, who have, I think an expertise that is often hard to find, and making sure that there's going to be enough in the budget to make it a competitive salary, to make it attractive to someone, and to create a support system so that we are creating community support to assist these co-directors in launching into what is going to be very hard, involved work to transform the culture of our county and how we deliver services and make policies, and all of our practices and procedures will all be impacted by trying to make sure that we are achieving equity in all the ways we conduct business in the county. So it's going to be a lot of work ahead, and we need everybody's help and assistance to do that. But I just wanted to give that update that things are rolling and moving forward, and we are getting much closer to hiring co-directors.
Oh,
Yeah,
great. Yeah, thank you.
exciting.
Kirby Lynch, who was the research group that collected the data.
Yes, from series.
She is going to be, she's come to the Concilio. She's going to come April the 21st. So I'm really excited, if not her, someone from her office. But I really felt that we needed to hear and know about the data. What does the data say that they collected? And then
That's right. There was a report published. It's gonna come out in multiple languages. I believe there's, I think almost, if not 10 languages, close to that, like maybe 8 to 10 different languages. And again, this is changing the way, just in the language access equity piece, right? The county hasn't been in a practice to make sure that all documents, all meetings are accessible by people who maybe, are not primarily English speaking, right? Or not most comfortable in the English language. And so the fact that this report is going to come out in so many different languages is really significant. It's an important start and demonstration on how the county is intending on moving forward. And it's really because the community leaders pushed this. This is not necessarily instinctual of the county to do this. It's because community leaders imposed upon the county that if we really are dedicated to equity, we're really going to do this, we need to do this right. And so you will see more and more county documents and county meetings conducted in multiple different languages, and investment in language equity. So that's that, you will see more of that. Yeah, so that's great. And Kirby is fantastic. She's born and raised here in the West County area, is very steeped in Richmond, has been involved in her own time in, Richmond efforts and community efforts. Her family's, active here. And she's also just a fantastic research person. So she has just this amazing, what we call like the trifecta, right? She knows how to communicate data in a way where all of us who aren't data nerds can understand, and gets us excited about research and data and putting that together. And I think that is such a special skill set for someone like her. And so she's just been a real asset to this effort.
That's great. Yeah, she's got a lot of enthusiasm.
She does. Yes, exactly. So she's great. She's a West County, as we call kinfolk, right? She's just like one of our people. So
great. Thank you so much for all of that.
Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have any last words or comments or questions, or because we've covered a lot?
I think so. Since Francisco is here, I just want to say that I know that there's been a lot of conversations, and I know you've been working really hard on trying to get the teachers involved in this bigger discussion with the school district on how do we address the culture of the schools. And, there's been some incidences between, I think, between peers among, students. There's some racial tensions. There's been incidences between teachers, a couple of teachers and students. I think there's a lot of issues going on in the schools that are, results of systemic things that are occurring in our larger community, right? And so just wanted to say that, Supervisor Joya, we've been keeping in tabs on all of these different conversations. We've been jumping in and supporting where we can and where we've been asked to be and showing up the best we can. And so I just want to, make sure, I know Francisco knows this, but I just want to reiterate that if you ever need our office to come in and support any of these larger discussions or just be an ally and partner, conspirator, we're here also for you. And we work a lot with RISE, and we've, learned a lot about how they organize and develop their youth leadership, but also just, the efforts we're imparting on, getting the navigator positions into the schools. Part of that is being funded by Measure X. And so like Dijon has their own navigator now for that whole neighborhood and family, which is great. So any student who has any issues or their family members need to get connected with any services, we're going to try to continue that model. And so, we're definitely very involved in the school sites. So in addition to our sort of larger conversations and relationships, we also have county folks on the ground. And so if there's anything that you ever need from us to support, please don't hesitate.
Thank you very much. And likewise, in any ways that we are able to partner with the county in terms of, broader conversations and that are impacting our school system as a whole, I think that, we'd be very thrilled to continue to work. Supervisor Joya has been a great ally, and we continue to support, who's continued to support us, throughout, my time here at UTR. So really appreciative of that. And definitely there's going to be a lot more work that needs to be done in terms of, building positive school climates and sustaining those climates and healing. Because I think, we've been focused on, trauma-informed care, but how do we move that towards healing-informed care, and doing that collectively. So thank you.
Good point. Yeah.
Thank you so much, all of you. This has just been amazing. I mean, we're fortunate to have such really conscientious community leaders that we can work with. And so we help each other and everything gets better. And the students, the young people, they benefit from all of this. The research has shown that even. So thank you all so much. I think we're ready to say goodbye and to stop recording, actually.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for coming.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. You're going to stop.